in Bangladesh. I will address that as well. As he himself said, this is not an international tribunal. This is very much a domestic tribunal created by a domestic statute, but where international has been retained in totality. This tribunal has been set up to punish the perpetrators who committed human rights offences of unprecedented proportion in 1971, which even defeats atrocities committed by Hitler during the Second World War. Some 3 million people were slaughtered, 3 million Bengalis, and 300,000 women were violated. I have many friends from India who know it well what happened in 1971. Now, if anyone suggests that those perpetrators should go unpunished, he would be guilty of the grossest violation of human rights. These perpetrators cannot go unpunished. Now, this is also to be borne in mind that we are not trying Pakistani soldiers. We are trying to try those Bengalis who collaborated with the Pakistani soldiers in their effort to commit atrocities, or who themselves have committed atrocities. And what were the atrocities like? Murder, arson, rape, etc. They can be tried in the ordinary tribunal of the country, courts of the country, under the ordinary law of the country. We don't need any international legislation for that, nor have we picked up any international legislation. Yes. We have set up a court with international standard. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to make it more clear, I should point it out that this tribunal gives much greater protection to the accused than the ordinary law of the land. Under the ordinary law of the land, a murder case is heard by one judge who is either a session judge or an additional session judge. Now, these accused are being tried by 3 judges of a very high standing, much superior to a session judge. Much superior to a session judge. 2 of them are in fact High Court judges. It's a bench composed of 3 judges, 2 of whom are High Court judges, and one, although not a High Court judge, but having similar standing. So, the court...
Sorry, I do apologise. From Thierry Leo, who can actually help you in relation to what's happening on the ground in a country which is beset by these problems. Yes. Yes.
My name is Adish. I'm the Civil Oversight Commissioner in the United Kingdom.
Mr. Chairman.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here with you this afternoon, and I want to thank the organizers for their invite to me to be part of this conference in this magnificent setting of the Grand Hotel. My topic this afternoon is bribery and corruption. I will talk generally on the methods or ways bribery and corruption operate globally. And I'll give you a case study in my country. I happen to be leader of the House in Parliament when we passed the first corruption law in the year 2000. Then we amended it in 2008. I'll come to that, and at the end of the day, you will see how we try to tackle corruption, and then I look into it and ponder on what we want to do. Now, in 1961, Sierra Leone descended into one of Africa's most terrible civil wars. It lasted a decade or so, killed tens of thousands of people, and spawned a new lexicon of words and images that shocked the whole world. blood diamonds, dropped up child soldiers, warlords, and militiamen amputating the hands of their victims for doing nothing worse than voting. At the end of it all, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission appointed by the government decided that one of the world's main causes had been the rampant corruption that had infested every level of government in the preceding decades. If Sierra Leone was to avoid a repeat of the 1990s, corruption was the biggest vice to be eradicated. Given the recent history, we in Sierra Leone are acutely aware of the causes and effects of corruption. Most significantly, we have extensive experience in implementing an effective, comprehensive anti-corruption strategy. Corruption involves a behavior on the part of officials in the public sector, whether politicians or civil servants, in whom they improperly and unlawfully enrich themselves, or those close to them, by the misuse of public power entrusted to them. Simply put, public corruption is the misuse of public office for private gain. Forms of corruption vary, but include bribery, extortion, cronyism, nepotism, patronage, graft, and embezzlement. While corruption may facilitate criminal enterprise, such as drug trafficking, money laundering, and human trafficking, it is not restricted to these activities. Bribery is an act implying money or gift giving that alters the behavior of the recipient. The bribe is the gift bestowed to influence the recipient's conduct. It will be any money, maybe goods, right in action, property, preferment, privilege, emolution, object or value, advantage, or merely a promise or an understanding to induce or influence the action, or your vote or influence of a person in an official or public capacity. The consequences of corruption for economic and social development are detrimental. Corruption deters investment, hinders growth, and spurs inequality and erodes microeconomic and fiscal ability. It reduces the impact of development assistance and provides an incentive to exploit natural resources, further depleting our environmental assets. It reduces the effectiveness of public administration and distorts public expenditure decisions, channeling urgently needed resources away from sectors such as health and education to corrupt-prone sectors or personal enrichment. It erodes the rule of law and harms the reputation of and interest in the state. In short, it increases wealth for the few at the expense of society as a whole, leaving the poor suffering and hardest consequences. Combating corruption requires a complex approach that addresses the many causes, facets, and structural issues that corruption entails. It also requires courage and a long-term commitment by a variety of anti-corruption actors, political leaders, champions amongst public servants, civil society, media, academics, the private sector, and international organizations all play important roles in addressing corruption. Corruption prevails where there is ample opportunity for corruption prevails where there is ample opportunity for corruption at little cost. Incentive structures encourage corrupt behavior. Anti-corruption strategies therefore aim at reducing the opportunities for corruption while decreasing the expected cost, that is the risk of being caught and severely punished. Applying this to anti-corruption program means to move beyond public administration and financial management. Reform to look at a broader structural relationship, including the internal organization of the political system, the relationship between the state and firms, and the relationship between the state and civil society. I give you a case study in Sierra Leone. Upon assumption of office and recognizing that corruption stifles enterprise and hinders growth, the current president of Sierra Leone, Dr. Adish, launched a robust, aggressive, and effective fight against corruption. We remain steadfast as a government in the anti-corruption crusade to give our people a better lease of life. President Nkrumah continues to indicate that for our government there will be no sacred cows, be they friends or relatives. Consequently, the government has legislated to give Anti-Corruption Commission robust and new powers to tackle graft wherever they found it. What we did first, the 2000 Act we passed in Parliament. By then I was leader of the House. It was not very strong enough. We gave the powers to investigate to the police and then report to the Commission, and the Commission would then look at the report and send it to the Attorney General. And if you know the three systems of government, you have the executive, you have the legislature, and the judiciary. Now, the Attorney General is a member of the executive. You have ministers there. If a minister commits an offense and is investigated, they will send the report to the Attorney General, and the minister investigated is a colleague of the Attorney General. So there is a possibility of collusion. So most times, I witnessed it, the Attorney General just simply refused to ask for a prosecution, and matter dies like that. So what we did, in 2008, we amended the law. What we did was this: we amended that particular clause. We handed over the power to investigate corruption to the Anti-Corruption Commission. They have their own lawyers. They have their own prosecutors. They investigate, quite independent from the government. They have the power to charge. They have the power to release. They have the power to prosecute. And they go to court and prosecute. It's an independent. The president has no power to appoint the Anti-Corruption Commissioner. All he did was to nominate, and then you go to Parliament for ratification. So the Anti-Corruption Commissioner is answerable to Parliament, not to the government. So we have very, very stringent anti-corruption laws. As I was speaking to you now, we have indicted and convicted 2 cabinet ministers. The head of the NRA, that's our National Revenue Committee, is going to jail for 30 years. The head of Customs is going to jail for 15 years. So as of now, we've committed 29 most senior government officers. What we did, our investigation starts from the top. Don't start to investigate corruption from the bottom, from the small man. He's a carrier. They send him. Perhaps he takes the parcel. Start from the top. You see, and when the top man is convicted, we send him to jail. Every Saturday, all jail men go to the streets to sweep. How would you fancy to see a former permanent secretary in prison clothes along the street sweeping? That's a deterrent. That's law. If you go to prison, every Saturday you go to government quarters and clean on a small stipend. So we continue corruption. So, what I've just said, I'll just repeat it. The government legislated to give the Anti-Corruption Commission robust new powers to tackle the graft wherever they find it.